All right, now, hello, welcome back to another video. How you guys doing today? Looking forward to the game tomorrow to get it out of the way. It's been this has been a long 3 days. Thank God it's a quick turnaround. It's been long. I mean, I might not say I was looking forward to the game after the game, depending on what happens, but right now, I'm looking forward to United playing again. As I do regularly, even though I will regret it later, almost assuredly. We'll see. We'll see. We will see. But yes, here we are, another interesting weekend of results. I'm a little bit happy. Not really. I'm a little happy that Palace pulled that win out, because it means the highest we can go on the table is 6th, technically, because of goal differential. But we can be level on points with 5th, with Chelsea. But the fact that we will only go 6th, to me, means this group of bottlers have a better chance of winning. A better chance of winning. Yeah, going 6th would be fine. It would. It's crazy, though. A draw brings you into 8th. A win brings you into 6th. I really hoped the game would end in a draw because, at the end of the day, I think it would be good. I want us to get up the table and all that. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't trust these fucking guys, man. I can't trust these guys. And if I'm looking at it going, oh, we can go level with 4th tomorrow, you just know they're going to mess it up, right? It's a point from 4th. It's level with 5th. Yeah, I don't know. We'll win 11-0 and go 5th. I like your thinking, and I wish I could feel so optimistic these days. There's times in the past, but yeah, not right now. It's an interesting one. Watched Adam Wharton again. I think he's exceptional. Wanted to talk about that a little bit. I really, really, really rate Adam Wharton. Every time I watch him, I'm like, how do people not rate him? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do people not see it? He's so good. He's so snappy. The way that he passes, the way that he moves the ball. I think one of the things about it is that he moves the ball, but he's so efficient with it that I think it makes a big difference. The way that he snaps the ball forward. But I also watched Baleba today again. I watched the full game for Brighton there to keep an eye on Baleba. I noticed he pretty much gets subbed every single game right now. I'm not sure anymore that's like, is it because he's underperforming, or is it just, the manager just like subbing him in maybe certain positions or something like that? I don't know. I really like Baleba though, actually. I watched him again. It wasn't special. I'll say that. It wasn't special. It wasn't 100 million on display or something like that. But I'll tell you what I really liked about Baleba, and a very different way to Wharton. Obviously, very different players in that respect. The two things I really like about Baleba is, as a more combative 6, I think he still does a good job at that. Even though he's not in his best form, even though he's not lighting the world up with 120 million in talent on display, I saw a very, very solid performance from a 6. I think that they even missed him defensively when he came off, because he was putting out quite a few fires. West Ham were a lot better than Brighton today. They could have destroyed them, to be quite honest. They could have been up 3-4 goals against Brighton in that game. So in that respect, I actually I think Baleba was doing a good job. A lot of times very quickly getting over to what do you call it? To put out on a counter, things like that, and all of that kind of stuff. And it was good. And the other thing I like is in possession, while, he's not necessarily like the most brilliant player on earth at the moment, there's two things that I really like about him. Number one is he shows for the ball in the press constantly. He shows for the ball in the press all the time, does Baleba. One of the things that I think goes under the radar that is a negative to Casemiro is he hides behind the presser a lot. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to agree with me. Watch it in the games and you'll see it. He stands behind the pressing player very, very often when we're trying to build out the back. Something I used to get furious with Scott McTominay for. Kind of standing behind the presser, not really making himself available. Baleba's always darting into areas that are making himself available. He's always putting himself where he can be found under the pressure, and then he's very often successfully able to turn out of the press, find a solution to get the ball forward. I saw some really nice little just like chipped dink passes and things like that, and good carries and all of that. Was impressed. I think he was good. You're happy he hides. We don't want him receiving the ball there. That's fair. But that's a problem. You know what I mean? That is a problem. You know, both of those things are a problem in conjunction. Both of those things are a problem in conjunction. But I liked it. I thought he was good there. Yeah, he's not showing 120 million worth of talent on display, but he's certainly showing a very, very good number 6. But at the same time, I sit there and I'm like, it's so bad. I'm impressed with every number 6 I'm watching in the Premier League right now. Like, almost all of them. You know, I'm sitting there like, every one of these midfielders would make us better right now. They just have to do the basics. Just do some simple things. And I'm like, we are starving in that position. The things, and it's crazy because we do this all the time with players, with managers, with coaches, with performances, with all of it, right? We get so hyper fixated because things are so bad that we also overly like we can tend to overrate when things are a little bit good, you know, a good moment, and be like, well, it was a great moment and he played decently, so, you know, why didn't we win, or all of that. And then we look at it and like,
from Lens is a Baleba type we should sign.
Fair enough. I don't know much about him. But then when you watch other teams, you go, wait, their guys do this like all the time. You know, their players are doing this regularly. These are like simple basics. And that's the baffling thing about this. If you watch, like I was watching the Villa game, okay? We really, we overrate our players massively. Yeah, we do. And unfortunately, like I was watching the Villa game yesterday and I was watching them pass it around the box. And I got to say to you guys, I was unbelievably depressed. It was depressing. I felt sick to my stomach watching that Villa game. Because you can put this on the manager if you want. I don't care. You can view it however you want. The speed at which those players are capable of passing the ball in and out of tight spaces to each other makes me want to vomit compared to ours. It's disgusting how bad we are at it. Every time you watch like even the games against West Ham where we'll sit and say like, oh, Dowlow had a good game, myself included, right? Where we'll look at those guys and we'll be like, oh, they had a good game over there. And then you watch the ball like come down our left side and it's like, stand there, 2 seconds to think, 1-2 touch, slow pass, 1-2 touch, slow pass. And everything is like, we have to play into huge amounts of spaces for our players to handle the ball. And I think the area, it's hard to define this, but I think it comes down to maybe it's not passing. Maybe it's things like the ability to keep the ball while under pressure, the ability to, physically like control the ball while someone's on your back, and things like that. But it's been happening for like a long time like this. Like I know people, everything that happens, people revise the past and everything like that. But we had that same problem under Ollie. People can forget it if they want, but we did. I remember all the complaints whenever we faced a loaded box. And people will say, no, well, we were better in the table. Fine. Okay, whatever. I remember it. Anybody who was there remembers it. Anybody who watched us 5 years ago remembers it. The amount of complaints we used to have about how slow we played around the box and how out of ideas we had when we played against defensive teams. How it would just constantly, it was so slow to move the ball. We were so slow to get anywhere. We were so slow to do anything with it. And how much we struggle with it. I remember it back then, and it's been that way for a long, long time. Our ability to play against loaded defenses has always been awful. We've always been really, really bad at playing in tight spaces. You know, it's something that I hope to see differently. You know, there's a lot that goes in. We've had, you're not wrong. I mean, from Moyes to LVG, it was like 55 crosses. You guys all remember that. Like, it's been this way a long time. Our ability to do all these tight little intricate passes. And I was going to say that as well, Mitch. Cavani helped it a bit with his movement. You're right. Cavani was when Cavani was there that one season, I felt like we could beat teams that way because he was so good in the way that he moved in and out of the box and around the spaces and things like that. He was so good. You know, that I love Cavani. That's why he's been like my favorite player for a long time. At United, one of my favorite signings we had for a long time, like a little like cult signing type of thing, but I loved it, you know? Yeah. And it's been a long time. And I think there's potentially two reasons for it. You know, one reason is that, we've been so transitional as a team for such a long time in the way that we attack, right? We attack quickly, we attack into space, we attack into, into the gaps a lot, right? We've been that way for a long time. So I feel as though, you know, we don't spend a lot of time in game states where we're around a loaded box. So we just don't have we've never had the experience as a team of spending consistent time trying to break down a loaded box. Like if you look at this season, how much time have we spent actually trying to break down a loaded box where like they were actually sat deep and we didn't rush our attacks and we were like around their box trying to break them down? If you go through the games, maybe Arsenal for like 15 minutes at the end on opening day, Burnley kind of the last 15 minutes and we ended up getting a penalty. Not Fulham because they were coming after us, not City, not Chelsea. They had 10 men. We actually did, but it was a very weird game. We rarely play in games where we actually do get a lot of time sitting, like around a loaded box trying to break it down. We rarely get time. I think it was West Ham was the best example of this, where we did have a lot of time sitting around the box. Against Everton was about like that as well. So, those were the only instances, and it looked terrible. But that was like the first time we really, really faced it this season, where we were actually like sitting around there on a loaded box against a loaded box, you know. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about it. It's something we've got to see. It's something we've got to figure out. How to resolve for sure moving forward, because I think we will face more teams like that, but I don't know, that's for sure. But the reason I'm saying like I like guys like Wharton, I know like Wharton is not Wharton is not my typical, like somebody said there, because I tend to like these very physical, aggressive midfielders, which is why I really like Elliot Anderson, because he has everything, right? But the thing I like about Wharton is I feel like he's so snappy with his passing, and even though he's a risk taker with his passing, he takes risks in the right areas. And he's a solution finder in the final third. And I think those are things that we lack. He's not a super high intensity player. He's not. I think that Baleba and Anderson would probably still make the best combination together of players. But when I look at it, at someone like Wharton, I look at what he can do, and I go, yeah, but look at what he can do, you know? Like, it's so quick, so snappy, so accurate, so fast, so like, bam, it's there. It's the same against us. He's so good at passing through the lines, through the middle of the pitch, not always, you know, big, long pass out wide, even though he's good at those too. I just feel we don't have that. He takes risks in the right area. You know, he does a lot of things like that. So I don't know, but I made a point to watch Baleba again this weekend, and I do think that if the race is heating up for everybody else, then Baleba still probably makes the most sense. And if we think about how we want to play moving forward, I think Baleba still makes the most sense. In addition to Anderson, don't get me wrong. Anderson is like the guy we've got to win. But the guy we've got to get, period. But I think Baleba still probably, like we were talking about him yesterday, I think he still probably makes the most sense. And I quite liked his performances today. And that's the point RSV. The center backs are responsible for that, so maybe we don't need that as much from Wharton. I would tend to agree with that. It's just that, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like, that's why I kind of have to trust that we get it right, because sometimes it feels like we're lacking so much right now that anything would help. Maybe it's not in the right direction. You know, I think that, the other one that was good to see is that continued links to Buwadi, because there's a point there, Aaron, which is that if we can't get one of these main guys, we should definitely get a solid player like a Gomez or something like that. But in addition, we need to get a super high potential player then. And someone like Buwadi could be that guy. Now, can we get him? I don't know. But I'm just interested because I'm looking at someone, you know, Buwadi that we've been watching, and all these players that we like, and there's a lot of the same clubs are competing for them. So it does feel like if you're aggressive, you can go get one of them. Somebody's going to be available, you know, because the work's going to be being put in, no doubt about it, by City and these types of guys on these names ahead of time. Somebody's, you know, we could get someone out of all of these options. There's almost no doubt in my mind about that we could get somebody. So that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, that's I'm hoping for that. For sure. So yeah, I don't know. That's one of the things, but I really do like what Wharton has as well. If we're not fixated on simply one thing, then he could work too. He could work as well. I saw an interesting stat earlier I wanted to discuss briefly. An interesting stat that was also ultimately extremely painful. Right? So there was a stat, of course, that under Mourinho, outdated parking the bus. Under Ollie, no tactics, individual brilliance. Under Rangnick, who plays this diamond nonsense? Yeah. Sure. So I saw that interesting stat. United have had 0 goals from substitutes. And of course, because the whole talk right now is about, of course, Bobby Mainu, you know, everybody's going to say, well, we never sub on attackers. We never sub on forwards and things like that. So I thought, as per usual, instead of like following the crowd of public consensus, that I would take a look at the numbers on this and see how many sub minutes have we given to attackers. 1 second. Almost done. We're doing it. Wrong number. 1 moment. Give me a sec. I'm almost done, I promise. So, by the numbers on that, let's see here. Here we go. Ready? Okay. By the numbers on that, Joshua Zirkzee has 84 sub minutes without a goal involvement. Kabi Manu has 171 sub minutes without a goal involvement. Mason Mount has 141 sub minutes without a goal involvement. No, sorry, that's Benjamin Šeško. 141 sub minutes without a goal involvement. Cunha has 81 sub minutes without a goal involvement. If you add, I was missing one other person, I feel like, because I swear I had one more number in here. All told, we've made about 600 minutes in attacking subs. 600 minutes in attacking subs, and they've had 0 goal involvements as substitutes. 600 minutes, okay? Spread out over them. So that's an issue. We don't have a lot of attackers. And when we sub any of them on, it's disingenuous to call Manu an attacker. Isn't that ironic, given the whole narrative from the last few days? Isn't this whole thing, are you guys, are we being serious? Are we being serious now? Come on. What was the whole thing about Amorim laughing when it was suggested that Kabi Manu would have brought attacking when he asked who to bring off the bench? Isn't the entire big meltdown the last few days about how Kabi Manu would have been an attacking substitution? Come on now. That's the entire narrative at the moment. The entire narrative at the moment is that Kabi Manu would have been an attacking substitution at that point in time. Someone who could have brought more attacking. Now he's not an attacker? We're just lying. Come on now. Of course he's not an attacker. Look, I agree with you. But what does that tell you? Right? What does that tell you? If Manu's not an attacker, we have none. We have no attackers on the bench. We have 0 senior attackers on the bench. That's the truth. We have none. That's just where we're at. That's just where we are. The squad's bad. Right. Because I can agree with you. Kabi Manu isn't, in my mind, an attacking sub, even though he has changed the game as an attacking player on a couple of occasions. We have 0 serious attacking substitutes on a bench from a starting squad level. Unfortunately, that's the state of our team. That's the state of the squad. That's where we're at. That sucks. That's a problem. And when you drop out Šeško for a few weeks and things like that, then of course it gets even worse. You know what I mean? That's where we're at. Because I don't blame Kabi. I don't blame Kabi for not winning us games when he comes on. But fact of the matter is he's been subbed on 2 times. The last 2 times he was subbed on in losing positions. Against Brentford, he gave the ball away to concede the 3rd goal. And against Everton, we didn't score. The last 2 times he wasn't subbed on under losing conditions, people aren't going to like this, we came back for a draw against Forest and Tottenham. So, like I said, a lot of stuff is just results-based, flicking round and round opinions that go in terms of a horrible carousel of arguments. The reality is we don't have a good enough squad. We don't have options. We've subbed Kabi for 30 minutes a game in the last 2 games where we've been in losing positions, Everton and Brentford. And we lost those games. We subbed Kabi. We didn't sub him on in 2 games that we were losing, and we ended up coming back and drawing those games. And that's not Kabi's fault in either direction. It's just the reality of things. We don't know. We don't know that a sub is going to make a difference. We don't know that a sub isn't going to make a difference. It's all guesses. It's all guesses and conjecture. And we have enough examples to say that it's a crapshoot in terms of the outcome. We don't have a good enough team, and we don't have a good enough squad, and we don't have a good enough options to be certain of anything, that any choice is correct at this point in time. We don't, we just don't, that kind of sucks. That's where we are. Which we talked about yesterday, and it's whatever. It is what it is in that respect. We need a lot more players to bring into this team, because we're right. We don't have a ton of tackers to bring on, and the ones that we do are largely ineffective most of the time. Yeah. That's it, unfortunately. So why did I say out of time? What did I say out of time in the 1 second. Why did I say out of time in the title thing there? Because I saw, it was interesting this morning to see, of course, an article from Rob Dawson, and of course, as would be expected, which is unfortunately very disappointing to see that the way that people attack a man's character the minute that they, are, what would be the word for it? That they dare to non-conform with the current anger and public consensus. Whether you agree or not, it's the attack in character that always bothers me about the way that this goes. You have very many journalists and people out there that are just looking for another scalp, looking to drive up more chaos, more division, more outrage, and things like that. You know what I mean? And it's disappointing. It's very disappointing so many times. I know, because I've talked about it myself plenty of times, but it is really disappointing to see anytime anybody has any sort of difference in opinion, that it becomes instantly character. You read through the comments, must have got the Ineos check, must have got this and that. I've spoken to Rob many times over the years, and I've disagreed with him like most of the time. Most of the time I've disagreed with him. But at the end of it, I have to look at it and say, probably, people have a point. There's so many times, like when I've done podcasts with Phil, where half the time I've been like, you don't know what you're talking about. But then half the time later on, I'm like, you know what? Phil was right. Phil was right about this. And that's why I keep, it's really, what's really funny is when he was Ten Hag in, right, and I was Ten Hag out, I remember how many people were in my comments with Phil going, why do you do a podcast with this guy? He's an idiot. He doesn't know. He doesn't do this and that and all of that, right? And then now that it's flipped the other way, where he's not a big Amorim guy, I'm not necessarily, right at the moment, a huge Amorim guy either, but I'm just a little more in the middle. I see in his comments, and I see in the comments of things like, why don't you tell that fucking idiot Muppet? Why do you do it? It's like, what do you guys? I do podcasts with Phil very specifically, and one of the things I like about it a lot is that we see things differently, and we have for years. We see things differently on so many different subjects, and that's the way you want things to be. You don't want to surround yourself with an echo chamber of nonsense. You have to be able to see, observe, listen to, and understand opposing and alternative viewpoints. What else is there? What's the point otherwise? Otherwise you're just masturbating. Honestly, that's what you're doing. That's what a lot of people are doing. Why were you so Ten Hag out and back Ruben now? Really simple. Ten Hag built the squad, and he was essentially destroying the club with the way that he built the squad. Ruben's not building the squad in that respect. I'm not really like for Ten Hag, it was after all the money that was spent and all of the, all the stuff he wanted, the demands for his players, putting all of who he thought was good before the club and most of it being absolute garbage. I thought this guy's driving us into financial ruin with awful decision making on the players. Amorim's not doing that. That's very different. Amorim's not doing that. That's a big, big difference to me. They're not even remotely similar right now. We're off the pitch doing a lot of the right things under Ruben Amorim. Off the pitch, you know what I mean? We're doing a lot of the right things under Amorim. He's not getting in the way. He wanted Emi Martinez. He wanted Watkins. He didn't throw a hissy fit when we went for different players. And you'd be surprised at how unusual that is. And it worked out in our favor. We're very happy to have Lamens and Šeško instead of Watkins and Emi Martinez. For me, off the pitch, that's worth crediting. For me, when I look at that, that's worth crediting. I think kicking out all the players in summer is something we've never done. If I have one critique, it's that we didn't go far enough. That's my biggest critique. We didn't go far enough, right? But we still went a lot further than a lot of other managers have gone. So I look at things in just a slightly different way than that. I don't think that Ten Hag and Amorim are similar in really any respect in that regard. I think their situations are wholly different. The other thing I will say where I've changed in my opinion a little is just my feeling about where the team and the club are at, but also that we have more we have the structure in place. We have the structure in place and all of that. But one of the things is similar in results. Yeah, and that's a fair point. So let me see if I can share something here. Hold on, let me just see. Let me see if I can do this or not, if this works. Because I'm gonna do a drawing for you. Okay, you ready for this? All right, I'm gonna do a drawing for you. This is how I see it, and this is how I always see it. Okay, this is Ollie back here on the left. Ollie, this is Ollie's last season. Yes, he got sacked, right? But this is the team he built, where they finished. Right, it was right around imagine this is like the bottom of the league, and this is like the top of the league, right? So his team was like here. Maybe like here when he finished. Like we were in like 6th or something, right? Then you got Ten Hag comes in first season. It's a little increase. Cool. All right, there's Ten Hag. He gets 1 summer and 1 season. Boom. 1 summer, 1 season. 2nd summer, 2nd season, and sacked. All right. That's where the club is when Ten Hag leaves. Just because Ruben joins, we're not magically up here. This was a created situation over 2 summers and 18 months of terrible football. That's where we are when Ruben takes over. And if you look at it in this sense, this is what we've done, okay? That's where we are right now. That's it. That's the truth. May not like it, but that's the truth. Because we're about where we were by the end of Ten Hag's 2nd season. Maybe this line's slightly too high because we're mid-season, right? So we'll see where we end off. That's kind of the reality of where we are as a club. It wasn't, so when people talk about results, I'm saying, well, sure, but we started down here and it's trending upwards. So I'm not freaking out and losing my shit. I'm not saying we should be a top 4 team because we didn't start as a top 4 team. We started down here. Ruben didn't take over this team. He took over this team 18 months later after everything that had happened, right? So that's the way that I look at, it doesn't just magically adjust. The club is where it is at the time in which, a manager Oh my God, what the hell? It played my audio. It played my audio that was for Hamza from ages ago. Anyway, did you guys hear that, or was it just me? That's where we're at. Obviously, look, that's why like, sure, mid-season results, things like that. It's hard to know exactly where we are, but Ollie was 7th, Ten Hag was 14th when sacked. So Amorim took over a significantly worse team than Ten Hag took over. That's just the reality of where we are. That's all I look at. I look at things over a long-term trend because that's the club. That's the club and where we are. It's not like some massive defense of Ruben Amorim, and it's nothing like that. But it's just the reality of, like, we've gone. I don't know, man. You start where you were, and the unfortunate thing that I think none of us wanted to accept, but was the truth, is that it was not a false position where we ended up under Ten Hag by the end. It wasn't a false position, right? It was
Hey James,
real.
Tune in all the time, but you never show up on my feed. Any ideas why? Notifications always on.
I have no idea how YouTube honestly works, Zach. I hear you on that. It's kind of annoying. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, Zach, but I appreciate you being here. I don't know how to figure that out, if anybody else ever has any advice, because I've heard that a lot. I don't know if it's just me or if it's a lot of people's stuff that they're subscribed to, notifications and whatnot. But yeah, I've heard that a lot. But that's really the point. We unfortunately, it wasn't a false position. When we finished 8th, that was actually a false position when you look at it by the numbers. We were worse that season in terms of metrics than we even were last year. And then last year, we were where we are. None of it was false. I think that's the point. And I didn't want to believe that last year either. I didn't believe it for a time. I was like, nah, the team's a lot better. It's a lot better. It's going to do a lot better. But we had to accept it, We had to accept it. We were in a false position, Yeah, I mean, like, when you look at Slot, yeah, you're right. 82 points. They won the league with 84 points, and now he's adding to it and getting worse. My view of the managers, but somebody asked earlier to look at it really clearly, of managers is, when you give them more, do you get worse or do you get better? Right? And at the point you start giving them more and you start getting worse, it's time to change. The more we gave Ten Hag, the worse we got. Under Ollie, when he lost the job, obviously by the end, we gave him Varane, Sancho, Ronaldo. You could argue we gave him a mixed bag of potentially bad stuff. You could make that argument for sure. But we gave him more and we started regressing, right? Prior to that point, we gave him more and we performed better. We gave more, we performed better. We gave more, we performed better. That's just how I see it. That's just how I see it. So what you were saying is a 15th place team. We're not a 15th place team today because we've added 4 players to it from a team that got 15th. We're Mbumo, Šeško, and Cunha and Lamens away from that team. That's where we are. We are 4 players better than that. Good players, strong players, but unfortunately at the same time, we've seen how it's gone. The minute we're missing them, a lot of stuff regresses back to what it used to look like. And that's not a surprise. Without Šeško and without Cunha, the fact that we look really similar to how we did before Šeško and Cunha is like, should be a really simple light bulb. Of course we would, because it was real. That's the position we were in. It was real. So, I was saying about Rob Dawson's article there that, like, he's talking about, there's a couple of things he said that I think are very, very true, which is he said, because look, when I was back in Chicago in summer, and I'm back in Chicago. What does he say? When I had plenty of conversations with people. This isn't like an excuse for the current predicament. They said very much at that team, we have a goal. It's to get back into Europe. And it's to get back into Europe, and that's the goal. That's what we expect. That's what they believe was the quality of the team that they had on display. One line that he said is that the United manager is facing a must-win game with a win-later squad. I do disagree with that. It's not a win-later squad. It's a win-never squad. Because half the squad are players that are just getting worse and worse. They're not going to win later. They're going to win never. You have a chunk of good young players that are win later players. You have a couple prime age good players that are maybe win now, and you have a significant number of win never players. That's the squad. So I don't think it's a win later squad, because it's not even as good as that yet. We haven't even done enough to call it a win later squad. It's a win never squad. A lot of these players that we have are not going to like magically start winning games later on, that's not going to happen, So, yeah, it is what it is in that respect, right? So, yeah, but the reality is we have to keep improving. And I don't think that Amorim's out of time or anything like that, of course. I think he'll get more time. Obviously, a lot of people have really, really wanted the question of, like, if we lose to Wolves, will you be Amorim out and all that? And
James, I hope the focus of the board is still on building the squad, rather than manager. Building a squad is proper hard, but adding manager change to the mix delays our progress.
I believe they feel that way as well. I believe they feel that way as well. I believe they feel that way as well, that might actually slow down the rebuild of the squad, and that's part of it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people really want you to say, well, if we lose to Wolves, are you Amorim out? I mean, I'm not in or out. It doesn't really matter to me. Like, I'm genuinely at the point where, to a large degree, I think the manager's irrelevant. Because I think we're going to be around where we're going to be until we improve the squad. And then the question is, do we have a manager that, as we improve the squad, will grow with it or not? And maybe not. If we lose to teams like Wolves, does my confidence or feeling that, that Amorim could improve in the future when we add more players get shaken? Of course. Yeah, no doubt about that. Does it matter? Do I want him sacked? No. Do I want him to stay? No. All it will do for me is give me depression. All it will do for me is make me go, we're screwed till we add some players to this team. You know what I mean? Because I look at that and I go, yeah, it's inexcusable for the manager to lose to Wolves, who have 2 points. Inexcusable. 100%. You want that you want me to say it bluntly. It's inexcusable for the manager to lose or draw to Wolves. You know what else is inexcusable? For the squad to lose or draw to Wolves. Just like it was against Grimsby and just like it was against Everton 10 men. All of those are inexcusable. For all of them. So it's not going to make me feel better to say Amorim out, because I genuinely do not believe we will be any better, maybe not worse, with anybody else right now, with the team that we have. I don't think it's capable of doing much more. I don't think it will fix anything. That doesn't make Amorim the right guy. But, there's 11 players who go on the pitch and 3 to 5 subs. And ultimately, the way that people take responsibility off of players in addition or at the same time, to me, is crazy. Right. A better manager makes Bruno score the 2 penalties. Agreed with that. If Bruno scores one of those penalties right now, then we're going into top 4 with a win. If he scores both, we are already in top 4. You realize that. If we score both those penalties, we're in 4th and we're chasing 2nd. That's insane. Doesn't matter. And then what? Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Players are responsible, managers are responsible, all of them are responsible. So us losing and saying, we'll sack the manager, that's not going to make me feel any better. Whether I like Amorim or don't like Amorim, it's not going to make me feel any better. And like I said, I've fooled myself in the past believing that it would, but I think I'm pretty on with exactly the quality of the squad at this point, and it ain't good. After the window, you said this was a top 4 team. Now the squad isn't good enough. That's disingenuous. I said if we added Baleba and a keeper, that we would have a team that later on would be capable. What I said was that I think we'll challenge for top 5 many times specifically. I still feel that way today. If we win against Wolves tomorrow, we're level with top 5. We're 1 point off 4th. Nothing disingenuous about that. I'm okay with our results as a whole right now. Tomorrow is like the most, to me, like the most like must-win game in a sense. These are games we can't lose. These are games we cannot drop the points in. Ones like this. Wolves and Burnley are the 2 worst teams in the league by far. It's not even close. And Wolves are maybe the worst team in history in the Premier League. These are ones they can't lose right now. But, that's where we are. Do I think this system, not formation, brings the best out of our players? No. Why do I want to? Okay, let me give you a point on discussion here. All right. Does our and you take this the wrong way as soon as I say it, but I'm going to give you that. Does Arteta's system platform and get the best out of Victor Gyökeres? I saw some tweets and things going around about him. It was always a weird signing. Does Arteta's system get the best out of Victor Gyökeres? No, of course not. But then you have to ask the alternative question. Why the fuck would you change what you're doing, and what you're trying to do, to suit Victor Gyökeres? You'd have to make the argument that it's worth changing your system, changing your intentions for Victor Gyökeres. Okay? Even though we're crap and not as good as Arsenal, the same exact logic applies. We don't want to play a way that suits players that we don't like, that aren't going to be here in the future. That doesn't make sense. That's not what we're trying to do. Gyökeres is one player, though, versus a whole team. It's one player now. When Arteta arrived, it was the whole team. And they got rid of all of them. Every one of them. Who's left? None. 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 None of them. They're not there. They changed the whole squad. They didn't, spend years building for players that they don't want. You're telling me we should adapt to Bruno, Casemiro, Dalot, Shaw? No. Absolutely not. Are you nuts? That's what we've been doing for ages. This is exactly what Ten Hag did. And people were pissed back then. And that's the hypocrisy I cannot stand. Ten Hag arrived, got battered trying to play the way that he wanted to play, and then started adapting to the squad. And people said, God damn it. We need a system. We need a style of play. We don't need to keep catering to these players. And that put us into 15th place. Catering to this squad turned us into a 15th place fucking team. We cannot have it both ways. No, I don't want us to cater to this squad. Angie, what'd you say here? Did Slot become a worse manager in one season? No, he inherited a great squad, and he played Klopp. They won. Now he's struggling. People underrate how full of holes our squad is. Correct. Yeah, it's exactly that. Slot is such a good example of this scenario. He took over a team that was a title contender, and they basically went and won another one. And the more he changed the squad, the worse it's getting. The worse it's getting. Did you miss the 2 years after that? Did you miss the 2 years after that? Probably. It wasn't third when Ten Hag got sacked, by the way. It wasn't third. It was 15th when he got sacked. Not third. That's not where we were. But that's what I'm saying. But this is why I say we always have these revisions of history, and it's what makes the conversation so crappy. You know what I mean? It's what makes the conversation so frustrating, is everything always gets revised based on people's current emotions. You know? That's it. You know, it all gets revised based on the way that the wind is blowing right now. You know? Ten Hag's third place was Marcus Rashford carry job. Pretty much Ollie ball. We all knew it back then too. We said it was Ollie ball. We played Ollie ball. It's kind of funny when you actually look at it. Even though we weren't as successful, really similar to Slot and Klopp. Ten Hag got better results playing another man's football with another man's team, and the more he put his mark on it, the worse it got. Very similar to Slot, these Dutch coaches, you know. And then it was catastrophe after that. So no, I don't want to cater to a squad that ended up in 14th place. I don't. I have absolutely no desire for it. And I will. It's one of the things that pisses me off with Amorim. I wish he would do it even less. I wish he would play fewer of those players. You know, I wish he would do it even less on that. I don't think we went enough. I don't think we go enough these days in not catering to these players. I think we've even adjusted our midfield to cater a little bit to Casemiro and Bruno, and it sucks. And I really don't like it. And I wish we would do it less and less and less. So no, I don't want us to cater to the squad. And people didn't want us to cater to the squad in the past, but you know, but anyway, it is what it is. Hot take, it's overperforming right now based on how good the rest of the PL is. Our first 11 is top 4 or 5 when 2 or 3 injured. We're bottom half. I wouldn't say overperforming. But I also don't think it's actually underperforming either. I think we are who the fuck we are. We are where we are. You know, this is just that's the part we have to accept as a fan base. That's what we have to accept, unfortunately. One more thing here. Obviously, I will be, and then we'll do our squad and things like that as well. The link is below. Go and get your picks in for tomorrow's game against Wolves over on Big Up. Again, you just pick, and each time the multiplier increases. So you pick all the picks you're going to make. I'm probably going to go with under 2.5 goals because we just don't score a lot. No Mount, not on Xerxes. No second half goal for Wolves. It's risky betting anything positive on United, but I think those are going to be my picks when I submit it. But anyway, you can go get your picks below, and we'll play the game again on Big Up. It's been hard. I don't think a lot of people have been winning recently because we all want to make positive selections for United, but then we stink. But yeah, obviously on Big Up as well. I'll be live for the game tomorrow and all of that too, but you can go get your picks in now. That is live. Zach, thank you for the donation. If you want to send a message, I'll read it out because I didn't see what you said there. So anyway, I don't know, man. We'll see. Have you noticed Mbumo's goals dried up since Šeško's injury? Yeah, and it honestly makes sense. The gravity of having a striker take up the positions that Šeško was taking up was helping Mbumo. You know, it's a similar team to what we had before, if not for Mbumo. You know, without like you take Šeško out of the picture, we had this problem last year. It's why we bought a striker, because it's dreadful without a striker in this team. You know, yeah, we were missing Šeško so much. I think if we move to a 4-2-3-1, we'd be better in the moment, but then you have to get a 10 to replace Bruno's skill set. Who would even get one at this point? I think
we all need to chill and remember why we love football instead of calling for the head of someone after each disappointing game.
Yeah, and I get people's frustrations, but I hear that too. It's like every time a result goes bad, we have to try to pin it all on one thing. The reality is that we have a mid club and a mid squad and maybe a mid coach, and you know, it's all on his way up. We have to continue rebuilding it. You know, that's why I keep pushing for, let's just push him to spend as much money as possible in January and summer to keep rebuilding it. You know, the reality is the people who benefit most from the current narrative are the Glazers and Ed Woodward and John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold and the people who are no longer here. Because every time we take a team where we are now and act like the last 15 years of horrific mismanagement that ended us up in this place with the squad that we have, that we spend this time acting like that didn't happen, we're just letting them off the hook every single time by doing that. Because we all know it. This is where I get frustrated. We all know it. We've all sat here, man. For years, we've all sat here. Shit recruitment, shit squad building, shit everything. We've built Frankenstein's monster. We've built a nonsensical squad that cannot compete. And then we start to change it and immediately panic. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. But that's why, again, I'm very, very specifically saying we do have to call for and put pressure on to speed the rebuild up. Because all of that is true, but it's really dangerous how long it's taking if we don't make moves in January. You know, it would be a shame if we don't then push that forward. You know what I mean? It would be a shame if we don't push that forward now, because we have to hurry it up. Because right now, what's happening, if you look at it, when I say out of time and all of that, is we were kind of discussing it yesterday, is that right now, if they're slow about adding players in January, all they're doing is making it more and more difficult for their manager to succeed. Right now, practically impossible for their manager to succeed in that sense, right? So they have to do it. No, I heard what you're saying, Smokey. I think what you're saying is that a 4-2-3-1 might suit the squad we have today a little bit better, but then you're saying you have to build towards this influential number 10 attacking midfielder role that Bruno plays, which, quite frankly, doesn't really exist as much in football anymore. If we don't make any signings in January, it's clearly on Ineos, Wilcox, and Broad, 100%. That's the pressure I'm putting on Ineos, not to sack the manager, but to sign players and build a squad, you know? Because otherwise, all they're doing is leaving their manager hanging out to dry, you know? Like we said, if they believe that it is a squad that's needing a lot more of turnover, then do more. Do more. Help him. Give him some help, man. That's what I'm begging for. And look, if you add players to it and it doesn't improve, then you know it's the manager. You know it's the manager. If you give Amorim more players in January and we don't get better, guess what? Then you know it's the manager. And if we do get better, then you know it's the squad. And if it's the manager, then you can change the manager, and now you just have a better squad for the next guy. Just go get some players. And we have improved since last year. I mean, from the stats. By the way, like if you want to take a look at it, right? This is kind of crazy numbers wise. This is non-penalty expected goal difference. Now, immediately you're going to get eye rolls if you can't string 4 words together in a sentence. But non-penalty expected goal difference is essentially just over the course of the entire season, would you have expected to score more than your opposition or not? Last season, we were negative 3.77 on that. The season prior, we were negative 14 on that, okay? This season, we are plus 4. So, yeah, the performances have improved as well, like it as not. It's the first time we've actually been positive, not negative, on our metrics in 3 seasons. So, the performances have been improving, not as much as we would all hope, but more players and different players have improved our performances. All right, let's do our squad vote. We've got some choices to make here. Once again, use the link below to come place your picks for tomorrow's game against Wolves, and I'll see you there on Big Up, but let's do our squad vote and call it there. Let's end this poll. Let's see where people are at. What do we want to pick this week? Striker, do you guys want to see Xerxes again, or do you want to see Cunha get in there and somebody move up into the number 9 position? Let's get going. This reminds me of Ollie's first season where we had Daniel James and Andreas Pereira. People were calling for a sack as we started the season badly, but everything changed when we brought in Bruno. Correct. And that was evidenced, of course, to the reality, the factor that evidence to the fact that more players helped Ollie there. I'm unsure here in terms of who I want to pick, but I think I would go Cunha this time and get Mount or Bruno into the front 3. I don't know. Yeah, I've been unimpressed with Xerxes. I'd rather put Cunha back up there. Personally. When is Šeško back? Isn't he back for Bournemouth? I don't know. We don't know yet. Let's get a few more votes in and we'll go. All right, we'll do like 2 more votes. All right, it's close, but we gotta move it. So it's close, but it's enough. We're calling it. I've seen enough. All right. Left 10, because we know when Bumo's going to be there. Are you going to go for Mount, Xerxes, Mainu, or Bruno? I'll give you all 4 options. Cunha, you got to also bear in mind here with Cunha, we're playing against his former team away. You gotta start him in this game. You have to start him in this game somewhere. It's his former team, you know. He's got to start. All right, Mount wins that one pretty handily. All right, let's go to the midfield. Can Mount play 2 games in less than a week? Wasn't he on the bench? Yeah, Ahmad will be the other automatic. Lahman's obviously in goal. All right, so same as last week. People want Kabi to play. So who do we want? Say it quietly, but a January bid for Gyökeres. I like the way you think. Who do you guys want to partner Kabi Menu? Yeah, Cunha, Mount, and Bumo is a solid front three. We've run it out a couple of times and had good performances. You think this game suits Ugarte? Well, I said that in the last few games. Like, I think when we're playing against teams where we're going to ideally have possession, be attacking them, and all of that. I said it during the break, if you guys recall, after Spurs. I said when we're going into these next stretch of games where we're going to have the ball, we've got to stop this Bruno Casemiro thing because it doesn't let us press high. It doesn't let us win the ball back quickly. And it makes us really bad at defending transitions. I don't know if Ugarte is the right guy, but this Bruno Casemiro midfield sucks when we need to have the ball. It sucks even worse when we need to have the ball, right? That's obvious. When we can't just play into transition the whole game. It sucks. And that's been proven so far. I said at the break, I really, 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 really want Amorim to find something else, and he hasn't yet, so worth a try. Worth a try going at this. Dorgu Dallo. What do we've got? Are we going to stick with Dallo after he scored a goal, had a decent game? Probably, right? Dallo's probably going to win this one pretty handily now. Oh, not as handily. Well, yeah. Wow, not as cleanly as I thought. This is the problem. We're voting on Dallo or Dorgu because of this shit system. Neither, and play an extra midfielder. Did you miss the vote we just had a second ago where nobody could decide on the midfielder either because our midfield is so shit? You're right. It sucks having to choose between Dorgu and Dallo right now. You know what also sucks? If we had to play Casemiro every single game and Bruno in every single game. What midfielders, man? Take our weakest part of the pitch and say, you know what? Let's make it worse. Midfielder choices get easier with 3. I disagree. They get easier because we have fewer players, but they get worse. We literally, like, it is really funny seeing the clamor for Casemiro, Manu, Bruno. Like, we didn't do that in Ten Hag's second season many, many times, or even the following season, and didn't get fucking destroyed by so many teams. We did that, by the way, and it wasn't good. It was really bad. Didn't work. All right. Give it to Dallo. All right. Let's do that one. Okay. All right. All will win. I think De Ligt's fine. I hope so. So De Ligt, Lenny, or we give Heaven another shot here. De Ligt should win this one pretty handily, right? Move him out slightly deeper. Oh, yeah, here we go. Ready? Look, guys. It's a 4-2-3-1. We can all be super happy now, since it literally looks like that in-game anyways. All right, De Ligt. Sorry. Let's do one more. It's funny because, yeah, if you change it to its in-game shape, then people will be happy because it will look like a 4 at the back. Oh. All right, you guys went for Maz. All right, there it is. There's your team. Let me fix it a little bit now that I've screwed it up. Here you go. There's your team. Let's see if I did any different. I don't actually remember. I went for Bruno Menu in this one. I don't know why, to be quite honest. I went for Bruno Menu in the middle because I was just like, I don't know, man. Maybe we'll just go score like 10 goals or something, or we'll try. But yeah, that's it. Otherwise, same team as you guys. Again, we're getting there. We're getting on the same page. All right, then. That's it. That's it. We're pretty much almost on the same page. I know, Kabi and Bruno, it's not a good midfield, but I just was like, I don't know, man. Fuck it. I don't care anymore. It's Wolves. It's Wolves. Let's just go for it. I don't know. I just don't want to see Casemiro play any more football. Maybe people will be really happy if we play Bruno Menu. I don't know. Maybe people would just be happy, and then we can calm down a little bit, even if it's crap. Maybe they'll just be happy because it'll be crap. We'll get a win, and then they'll be happy, and we can just be quiet for a week. That would feel good. All right, I'm going to end it there. Thanks all for hanging out today. Again, use the link below to sign up for the picks later on. And otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow in the morning. Well, I'll be back with a pre-match show. I'll be back for the match itself. And then, of course, the post-match as per usual. Okay? Have a good one, everybody. I will see you later. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good Sunday. Catch you on the flippity flop. Goodbye.